Hi everybody, this is Dr. Joanny Liu and welcome to Facebook Live. I'm going to be talking about a very important topic today. It's all about the myths behind a low-fat diet and basically your brain on a low-fat diet is a really bad idea. Okay, so I'm waiting for a few people to jump on and then we'll get started, okay? Because it's really important to know that conventional wisdom is not wisdom at all. And there really is no such thing as evidence-based medicine. Unfortunately, that is the truth. It is a very unfortunate phrase that was coined originally by a McMaster University in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. The thing is that so many of the myths, especially around food and nutrition, are doing us a lot more harm. And one of the biggest myths is about dietary fat. Okay, so dietary fat was first demonized in 1955 by a researcher named Ancel Keys. So he presented to the World Health Organization, the WHO, his findings from the research that he did. Now, the thing about his research is that he only had a very small group of people. And the thing is that he nitpicked the information that he shared with people. I mean, that was the other thing. So, the scientific method, and I really truly believe in it, because, after all, I was a professional engineer, went through, years of schooling in Canada. This is where I grew up. And, I had my labs and everything. But the thing is that when an experiment for me failed, I did not ever cook up my results. I just honestly wrote down in my lab book and handed it in, my lab reports, why the experiment failed and what should have happened but didn't. I explained why it didn't happen too. So there was never any question of integrity. Well, there's a lot of questioning that we need to do around all the nutritional stuff that we hear about. Because one week we hear about a food which is super fantastic, the next week or a year later we hear that, oh my God, I think we were wrong, And then they have inconsistent, but the thing is that they had inconsistent results all along. And the reason for this is the fact that we're not all the same. We're not all the same. We are each one different. I mean, it's really sad, especially with fats. Okay, so Ancel Keys introduced this idea at the WHO that dietary fat was very bad for our health, and that it was the cause of increased heart attacks and this sort of thing. And so, at the time in the U.S., heart failure rates were going up, heart disease rates were going up, and so they needed an explanation. So when they heard this, they jumped right on it, and then the advocacy of low-fat diets began. Now, of course, it probably took, a few years, maybe even a couple of decades, before it became well known to everybody in the public, because then, these people managed to get governments involved in the propaganda campaign, okay? But the thing is that I've always kind of questioned, well, why would something like saturated fat, in the form of butter, eggs, cheese, red meat, why would that suddenly become such a bad thing when we've been doing this for thousands, several thousands of years? Why would that suddenly be a bad thing? And so recently, over time, since that time, there's been studies over and over and over again that have discounted the research that Ancel Keys has done. And, you know, so I'm one of the advocates that are trying to tell you that dietary fat, saturated fat, even saturated fat is not a bad thing for you. So when we're talking about the brain, we're talking about the fact that it is mostly made of fat, okay? And it's saturated fat, our own kind of saturated fat. So one of the issues is that if we're not getting the things that we need in order to keep our bodies, and including our brain, healthy, then what is in fact going on? Okay, so why do we have such huge rates of obesity? Why do we have such huge rates of Alzheimer's and dementia? Could it be because of this misguided belief that dietary fats are bad for us? Could it be that Ancel Keys had an agenda that was outside of general health? You see, we have to question these things. Every time there's a contradiction, we should be asking questions ourselves. Okay, it's really interesting. So we have on the one side, you know, Ancel Keys that says that all dietary saturated fats are bad for us. And then we have the other side, you know, this guy, the Grain Brain by Dr. David Perlmutter, MD. You know, so he says that grains are really bad for us. So he talked about the surprising truth about wheat, carbs, and sugar, your brain's silent killers. So I've read his book, and just like in the case of Ancel Keys, in the Grain Brain book, it's the same problem, but for opposite reasons. Okay, so when you're on a high carb, low fat diet, you're eating a lot of grains. Okay, so when you're on a high fat, low carb diet, then yes, you're eating a lot of fats. But the thing is that neither of these things are a solution, because they both have the same problem, and that problem is that it's the same diet that everybody can use. And unfortunately, like I said at the beginning, we're not all the same. So we need to be much more careful about one-size-fits-all advice, just like this. And pretty much from that point of view, from conventional medicine, this is all we get. All we get is one-size-fits-all solutions, which aren't solutions at all, because it definitely makes some people sick and it makes some people well. So the question to ask is, why doesn't this diet work on some people, but it does for others? Or reverse it, why does this diet work for some people, but it makes other people even sicker? Okay, so I want to draw your attention to the middle of the road, which is something that really helped me in the 1990s when I discovered it. Okay? Eat right for your blood type. Plus the fact that Chinese dietary therapy will also individualize your diet as well. I mean, you know, the proponents against this book and this series of books were saying, oh, there's no scientific evidence, blah, blah, blah. But the thing is that Dr. Peter D'Adamo did everybody a favor by digging into the existing research, and, you know, because it was all over the place, because it wasn't actually just focused on food, on diet. It was all over. People were looking at blood types for different reasons. So he brought everything together, and he realized that he had the answer, that we are not all the same, that a blood type O has a different configuration from blood type A, has a different configuration from a blood type AB or B. Okay? So for blood type O's and B's, they can eat meat. And in fact, if they don't eat meat, red meat, they can get very, very sick. Okay? So I do know of vegans who are blood type O's, and I'm not so sure about, well, I mean, I just look at them and I know it's not a good idea. Okay, so, and there are blood type A's who also eat a lot of meat and who are doing really bad. In fact, blood type A's are really the only people who can do well on a mostly vegetarian diet. But I really am not sure if anybody does well on a totally vegan diet. I'm not totally sure about that, okay? Because the thing is that we do need our saturated fats. And like I said, you know, there have been studies after studies that have not connected dietary saturated fats with heart disease. In fact, they have found that at least 50% of all heart attacks have nothing to do with clogged arteries. There is no organic reason for these heart attacks. So what else is going on? Well, of course, I would look at each individual, do a very comprehensive diagnostic process, and come up with the reasons why that person has had a heart attack. But the root of it is unhappiness, okay? And in their particular case, it was their heart that was weak, okay? Not everybody will display that. In other people, it'll be liver problems or stomach problems or brain problems, okay? Everything always comes down to what is going on in that person's life that has upset them so much. But when it comes to diet, it's the same thing. It's got to be individualized and it's got to be customized. Because even within the same blood type group, we're not all the same. So that's the message that I want to leave with you. That you've got to branch out. If you're a blood type O and you're already eating your red meats and, you know, not a whole lot, okay? 2 to 5 ounces for women every day, you know, 7 times a week. 4 to 6 ounces for guys, 7 times a week. If you're a high-achieving elite athlete, you'll need more, okay? But that's up to your own appetite. So don't overdo any of this. If you're a blood type A, bring back eggs, some dairy products, not so much milk, but, you know, cheeses, peanuts, you know, bring back those things into your diet. If you're a vegan, I suggest that you start looking at bringing saturated fats back into your diet, because there really is very few plant sources for saturated fats. It's really only the peanut, and there's coconut oil and palm oil, and they're not so great for you in reality, okay? Again, it's about knowing who you are and being able to individualize your diet. So please bring back fats into your life, into your diet. They are not bad for you. Please dismiss the myth that is behind all this existing obesity and sickness, and we still have high rates of heart disease. You know, we have to start treating the root cause, and that is that you have to really take a good long look at your life and do something about the issues that are upsetting you and making it all right again, okay? Okay, so until next time, this is Dr. Joanny Liu. If you know anybody who's suffering from concussions right now, please direct them to Amazon.com to pick up my best-selling book, Heal Your Concussion, How to Quickly and Effectively Get Back in the Game. If you already have a concussion, you can also pick up my ebook called Concussion Answers at drjoanny.com. Okay? So take care. Bye.